Welcome to my 1975 Corvette convertible YouTube channel. In this short video I will show you how to remove the horn cap and replace it with a new horn button. On my 1975 Corvette, the horn emblem is the original and had faded over the nearly 50 years I had owned this car. Also, my horn doesn't always work that great. Sometimes when you push it nothing happens. So, I thought this would be a good time to replace the emblem and make my horn work better. I ordered a new 1969 to 75 horn button assembly with tilt telescopic for around $70. It comes ready to be painted to match your car's interior. In my case, I also ordered the matching interior dye aerosol to paint the outer ring bezel. The matching spray paint was around $30 a can. I bought these items from Zip Corvette Parts, but most of the Corvette parts stores have these parts. To take off the horn button, it simply pulls straight out from the steering wheel. You shouldn't need any tools to pry it off, like I did. Just give it a firm pull directly away from the steering column. Whoops, I dropped it. Now you can see the upper horn assembly. With a Phillips screwdriver, remove the 3 long screws holding down the upper horn assembly. Note the horn might sound briefly when you are removing these screws. After the upper horn assembly is removed, you can see that many years ago, I zip-tied 2 of the places where the nylon rivets go. You can buy replacement horn button nylon rivets for a set of 3 for around $5. I should do that so I can have them in the future if I need to make any further adjustments. Mine doesn't look too rusty, but I will disassemble it anyway to clean up the surfaces for better electrical contact. To remove the nylon rivet, tap it out on the back side to push the interpost out. Then just pull it out. After the nylon rivet is pushed out, I cut out the zip ties to get the upper horn assembly to come apart. Here you can see the 4 pieces that make up this assembly. The upper contact ring, the brass horn cap retainer and contact, the paper insulator gasket that electrically separates the brass horn cap contact from the 4th piece, the lower horn return ring with L-shaped contact. Note that on mine, this insulator gasket is completely stuck to the lower horn contact stand and cannot be removed without destroying it. I carefully scrape it off so I can later use it for a template to make a new insulator gasket. After the old gasket is removed, I sand off the residual material. I use various cleaners like WD-40 and brake cleaners and buff off as much of the rust as possible. Now the parts look fairly clean. However, I now either need to buy a new insulator gasket or make a new one. Note that I could have bought a new horn button stand with contact. This would have included the 4-piece upper horn assembly, including the paper insulator gasket, and with new nylon rivets for only around $23. Maybe I would have if I knew I couldn't clean up the upper assembly without destroying the gasket. But I didn't. As a result, I went to the local auto parts store, but I could not find any small paper gaskets without buying a whole roll of Felpro Carapac. I only need a couple of inches of the paper, but it was only $9, so I bought it anyway. I used the lower horn ring stand as a guide to make an outline on a paper sheet of the inside circle as well as each of the 3 mounting holes. Now I used a piece of the broken gasket that fortunately had a section from one hole to the other. This helps me make a complete outline of the new gasket. Next, I cut out the paper template. Next, I transfer the paper template to the Felpro paper sheet. Using scissors, I cut out the outer pattern of the gasket on Felpro paper. With a sharp utility knife, I cut out the inner circle of the gasket pattern. I used a single hole paper punch for the 3 mounting holes. This makes a nice clean circular hole. In addition to the upper horn button assembly, there are 2 shim rings that go below the upper horn assembly. These were a bit rusty also, so I used an emery scouring pad to clean them up too. Now they are nice and shiny and ready to be put back together. Reassembled the 4 pieces of the upper horn assembly as shown. It is important to make sure the 4 pieces go back properly. The order of parts is the bottom L contact, then the paper insulator gasket, then the brass horn cap retainer, and then the upper ring contact. There is a vertical line on the top horn ring contact, and that is to line up with a notch on the brass horn cap retainer. I work in the old nylon rivet with the top part of the rivet being on the top of the upper horn assembly. The top of the rivet is the side the rivet post protrudes from. Once I have the rivet in place, I use a flat screwdriver to push the rivet post through to the bottom to lock the lower ring contact stand. Now, I use small nylon ties on the other two holes that I don't have rivets. I pull tightly on the ties to secure the pieces together. I perform an electrical check to make sure the new paper insulator is electrically isolating the lower horn ring from the upper horn ring. If these two parts are shorted together, then the horn would be on all the time. Next, I confirm that when the brass cap retainer is pressed onto the lower horn ring, there is an electrical connection. This is the switch that turns the horn on when pressed. The next step is to connect the outer horn bezel to the new Corvette emblem. There are 3 pieces to the new horn button assembly: the newly painted outer horn bezel to match the interior color, the emblem retainer, and the new center horn emblem. The new emblem retainer and emblem fits over the 3 holding posts in the new bezel as shown. Place the 3 pieces of the horn button assembly, emblem side down, on top of a microfiber cloth sitting on a wood block or wood plywood as shown. Using a tap, insert it in the bezel mounting hole and hit it with a hammer until the bezel mounting holes start to deform outward. Do this to the other 2 holes. Now with a ball peen hammer, tap directly onto the bezel mounting holes to further spread out the mounting post to secure the horn emblem and emblem retainer to the bezel. This is important to get secure, since when you need to pull off the horn button, the emblem doesn't come apart. When done, it should look like this. Now it is ready to put onto the steering column. Use one of the long 3 mounting screws to hold the shims and the 4-piece upper horn assembly. Make sure you have the L-stand contact to left of center and it will push on the spring-loaded horn return contact in the steering column. The shims go in between the upper horn assembly and the steering column standoff ring. Carefully screw in these 3 long screws a little bit at a time. Note that the horn may briefly sound as you put this back together. Once all 3 screws are snug, not too tight, the horn button bezel assembly is ready to be pushed straight on the upper horn assembly. Center the button and press it firmly on. The horn should sound now when being pressed, but not stay on. Check that the horn button is centered and not tilted up or down or left or right. A side view will help to make sure it looks good. In my case, the horn button was too close at the top of the steering column and there wasn't enough clearance to allow the brass horn cap contact to make contact to the horn contact return. This was the same problem I have had for many years. To fix this, I had to take off the bezel and 3 mounting screws and add washers under the shims on the top 2 retaining screws to make the horn button more in plane with the steering column. This side view shows the added washers at the top and the upper horn assembly is now parallel to the steering column. Now the horn works consistently and the new Corvette emblem looks great too. Thanks for watching to the very end, and I will have more videos working on my 1975 Corvette.